I was doing energy work for my sacral chakra for almost a month now, and just before start filming this video I did a 30-minute sacral chakra meditation so I can be in the best possible state in order to talk with you about this energy. During this month I released some energy blocks and I processed quite a bit of uncomfortable feelings and some fears that were not allowing me to get more energy and more benefits from sacral chakra. And that's what I want to share with you, because sacral chakra is connected to a lot of different things in our life, and here I don't want to talk about all of them because like this video will be too long. This one I want to focus specifically on relationships, and even more narrow topic is being vulnerable in our relationship. Why it's so important to learn and to allow yourself this vulnerability with the other person, and how it's connected to the sacral chakra and how it can improve your state, your energy, and most importantly your relationship. Because when you allow yourself this vulnerability in a relationship and when you don't allow it, it's two completely different stories. Relationship are very different. That's what I noticed in my own experience, and that's what I want to talk about. So I'm doing energy work on my chakras for quite some time now, and the previous video I did about the root chakra. And if you want to do the same thing that I'm doing, it's always better to start from the root, and I will explain here why. Because sacral chakra is connected a lot to all our emotions and some emotional traumas from our childhood, some bad experience, some fears that we created, some defense mechanisms, some programming that we got, some patterns. They can block or interrupt the flow of the energy of the sacral chakra, and that's how you may not feel enough of this energy and have some problems in relationship with processing your emotion, with allowing yourself some creative expression, with allowing yourself to have some joy in your life. Those things are all about energy of the sacral chakra. When you do energy work on any of the chakras, you can start noticing that while you're doing it, it's not always a pleasant experience, it's not always easy, and sometimes before you feel better, before you get the feeling of this energy that you want to have and the result that you want to have in your life, you may have to encounter some situations that kind of trigger some of your fears, some of your emotional problems, all the energy blocks that you have in the specific chakra. Sacral chakra quite a lot is blocked by the feeling of shame, and this we get a lot in our childhood when our parents, grandparents or teachers want to teach us to behave in certain ways, to follow certain rules that we have in the society. And one of the things that they're using are shame, sometimes also guilt, sometimes some threatening and punishment, but if we're talking about sacral, it's very often shame. They can shame you also for your emotions, for your feelings when they don't allow you to feel them. They can shame you for the fact that you doing something just for entertainment, for your joy, for some pleasure, instead of focusing on studying or on some work, on something more useful. By getting this situation again and again, we create certain blockages. When we start feeling shame, it's quite damaging to all our energy system, because shame is one of the emotion with the lowest frequencies. There's guilt and then shame, and that's why these feelings are so destructive. And people who have a lot of guilt and shame, they usually have a lot of problems in getting what they want in life, in get more freedom, and in being happy overall. So shame is one of the things that you may start experiencing when you release these blockages, and that's something that you should be ready for, because it's one of the most uncomfortable emotions, because it's very low in its vibrations, and it's this feeling about that something is wrong with you, something that you're doing is wrong, something that you're doing, you or should not do it, or you should hide it so no one will know. And if someone knows it, if someone sees it, you feel really, really bad. That's where you kind of shut down everything, because you want to hide who you are, you want to hide your expressions, your feelings, your words, and some of your actions. When we talk about relationship, that's where the shame comes in a way that there is maybe something that we feel, something that we want, something that we do, that we're maybe okay-ish with it, but if we put another person close to us that looks at us or just knows this, we suddenly become uncomfortable. We're hiding it. And sacral chakra is the energy center that arrives us to the level of connection with other people. If we talk in root, it's a different story. Why also I said that I recommend to work on the root first, because when you will start having these uncomfortable feelings, when you become more vulnerable in a relationship, you need to have this kind of foundation, this kind of stable ground that you get in the root, because in root all this anxiety, all these feelings of being unsafe are, and when you release them, when it's more balanced, more stable, you start feeling more safe, and you can allow yourself a bit easier to go through this other feelings and emotion, when you don't feel that something is a threat to your life, to your safety, to your survival. That's where the root is important. So, but let's look in a way our root is balanced. We can kind of rely on it, and we go to our sacral chakra. So how it starts? First, I noticed you can start experiencing some shame as some blockages getting released, and the best thing that you can do is just to sit with the feeling, not trying to solve it in any case, and observe the situation, because this was happening to me. Some very stupid situations were happening that were triggering these feelings of being embarrassed or shame, or kind of I didn't like maybe how other people see me or what I did. The interesting thing that when you're aware about what you're doing, I'm doing the energy work, situations happens, they happened only to help me to release it, and maybe to find some programs, some fears, some beliefs that I have that maybe not allowing me to move forward with it. So when we're releasing shame, we start feeling a bit more free once the feeling is past. And then we can notice, like we can look on your relationship and you can see how honest, how open, how sincere, how real I am with my partner. Because when we are not, we communicating with another person a lot from some role that we put in, but even more, most of the conflicts are happening when our defenses are working. So for example, there is some issue, we can have a conflict with our partner. If you will start dig deeper in the conflict, why this bothers me so much, why I want to argue, why I want to change something in the other person, why I want to prove something, there is something inside you, something is hurt, something is threatened, there is some fear. There is some fear, and you too scared to be honest and vulnerable enough just to tell the real feeling, because I don't want you to do this, because then I feel this fear, then I feel this kind of feeling that I can afraid that this situation will lead to this stuff. Or when I say you do this and you respond in this way, it makes me feel in this way. And it's usually some uncomfortable feelings that we prefer to be defensive about them. We don't want to show our weakness and our vulnerability, because what can be there? What kind of feelings? We can have a fear of being rejected. We can have a fear of being judged in some bad way. We can have a fear to feel shame when someone told us something about us. We can have a fear to be abandoned. And all this kind of stuff, we don't want to get too attached to other person. It's also the sacral chakra blocks. We want to be more kind of independent, and independent in a way that no one will hurt us, no one will create us problems. We're doing everything by ourselves, and no one have any influence to us. But the sacral chakra is about connection. When we remove this guard, remove this defenses, and become close to the other person. And the way to do it, when you mix together the energy work, you do meditation, energy healing on your sacral chakra, and by taking some action. When you have some problem in a relationship, when you find in what the root is, you come to your partner and you start talking honestly. By feeling all the feelings, you have a fear, you feel vulnerable, but you still speak the truth. And observing what feelings are coming in this specific moment during this conversation. I was doing it many times, and I was noticing the shift and the change in the state. First, there's a fear, there's uncomfortable. You don't want to be in this position, you don't want to feel vulnerable, you don't want to show that you're vulnerable in some things. You want to be more in a strong position, you want to prove I'm right, that's why we should do it in this way, or that's why you should not do this, and you use your logic, or you try to manipulate and other things. All these conflicts, manipulations, the proving and arguments, they start being not necessary when you come to the moment of this honest, open conversation. But you can do it only when you can handle the fear of like being maybe judged, of hearing something that you don't like, because why it's happening, not only you have these defenses, your partners has them as well. That's why these emotional arguments can happen in some fights. If you didn't have them, they would not happen. When you start to open up, when you start to be strong enough, have enough courage just to face all these feelings when they coming up, and maybe then take a pause and just sit with yourself and process this, then your partner also doesn't feel this threat anymore from you. He doesn't see these manipulations or these strong arguments when you're trying to push everything in your way and this kind of stuff. He starts seeing that you're real, you're relaxed, you're calm, there's no this tension, even if you're going through some of uncomfortable emotions, but you're not in this fight mode, not to protect something. You understand that you can handle it. You can say, it's my feelings, it's my fears, my partner don't need to solve them for me. He's a mirror, he's my best spiritual teacher, we can say, because with him, he can trigger the most strong emotions. With him, I have to solve some important things and make some important decisions. And you can't say that you're completely independent in a relationship. There are certain things when you will depend on the other person, and the other thing that you need to accept when you're doing this work. And the beauty of all this process, that the more you allow yourself to do it, the more you take your time and honestly look in all these issues, that is not the relationship problem, that's not your partner problem, that is some unprocessed emotion, that is your defense mechanism, that is your fears. And the more you release them, the more you allow them to be, the more they start going away, the more free you become. The more free you become, the easier the communications become. And when we have better communications in our relationship, we have much less problems in our life, because then we're kind of a team. We understand each other, we're helping each other, we're not fighting about every little issue. We don't waste our energy by protecting these fears and these emotional traumas. We know in them, we're doing something about them. We don't need all these resources to hide them, to hold them, to protect from like the other person, but from the world in general. When it's happening, we start having more energy, more resources. And when you have more of this, you can do much more different things. It's easier to focus on some goals, on some dreams, even on some problem solving. Because everything that was wasted on this fight, on covering, on protecting, on hiding, is still going away. And that's what I noticed, not only with sacral chakra. When I did my work on the root chakra, I already felt this. And then when I was feeling much better, I started to do the work on sacral, and then I noticed at first a lot of things are coming that uncomfortable, and there are some periods that I was not feeling so great, and there are some periods when the stuff were coming up and I needed to be with this, and I needed a lot of energy to process it, so I was not very productive. And also the interesting thing about sacral chakra, I start indulging in some food like ice creams or pizzas that normally I'm very conscious about what I'm eating. I'm controlling what, when, how much I eat. But here I just lost it and I didn't like it. But then I saw like, it's sacral chakra work. What can I do? These things will come up, because when we have too much problems in the sacral chakra, it's quite likely that we have addictions to certain things that gives us pleasure. So we use them as a source of pleasure, the source of covering the pain or ignoring the pain, because we can't allow ourselves the pleasure of life, the joy of life, of doing what you really want in the moment, of being yourself, of feeling and expressing your emotions and feelings, of saying what you want, of being real, of finding joy in some creative things, in some playful stuff, when you don't take life too serious, when you do these silly things that make you laugh, that give you pleasure, not only doing what's need to be done for a certain goal. No, when you allow yourself this stuff, when you're not blocked by shame, by guilt, by something that is not okay with you, you can allow yourself so much more things, and like this you have much more energy. And when this happening, you don't need too much of these pleasures like food that you're indulging, or maybe even something more serious like alcohol or drugs or something else. So that's how sacral chakra can be connected also to addictions. And you may notice maybe when you had some problems in relationships, or maybe when you didn't have one but you were suffering a lot from being lonely, you're more likely to indulge in certain addictions because you don't get this pleasure of connection with another person. So the conclusion is, even sacral chakra energy work can be quite challenging, not very pleasant. You can encounter some feelings of shame, of fear, some uncomfortable emotion. You may have to learn to be vulnerable. The benefits, they really worth it, because my relationship with my husband improved very quickly. Our communications are very different now. I'm feeling better also, and I definitely have more energy, and I found more things and experience that I can really enjoy in my life. And this a very different quality of life. That's why it's worth it. If you enjoyed this video, I also recommend you to watch the one about the root chakra, because if you didn't do the chakra work before, it's better always to start with the root. And another thing that I noticed, what can be an obstacle in allowing yourself to be real and vulnerable in a relationship, is when you have very strong ego, because ego needs to keep its form, a specific identity, and when allowing yourself to remove these defenses, for ego feels like a very big threat. Ego is usually start being lighter and kind of more flexible when you go through spiritual awakening, especially during the void stage or hermit stage of spiritual awakening. And if you're interested about it, you can watch my video about the void stage of spiritual awakening. As sacral chakra is also connected to relationship, as I was talking all this time about, if you have problems in relationship, if you notice that you're stuck in some toxic relationship, you can watch my other video when I tell my story. How did I finish toxic relationship, and how did I met my husband later, and now we're almost 7 years together. And it's two different stories, how I was before and how I'm after, and how are my relationship, what kind of self-work I've done, what kind of healing I've done to completely switch the pattern from toxic relationship to healthy, more balanced relationship.